who are the traditional custodians of the land on which the team is located. I want to pay my respect to elders, both past, present, and emerging of the Darug Nation, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people present here today. I'd also like to alert everyone that this session will be recorded to be shared after the expo on our website. I'll be moderating the session today, and we'll keep everyone on the audience on mute while our panelists are talking. Today, I'm so excited to open up our audience to a forum consisting of amazing solar car racers from all over the world. I've got to say, meeting up with each other every 2 years in Darwin is just too long of a break, and I'm so glad that we could all get together in this little panel. It should also be a great way to find out what each other have been up to and answer some audience questions, giving insider insight on various teams in the challenge. I'll start off by getting each of our panelists to introduce themselves and sharing who they are representing, and what their role is within the team. After this, I've got a few questions to get our conversation started. But what I'd really like is for the audience to submit as many questions as they have to the chat box. And I would also encourage all panelists to chime in with follow-up questions about whatever is being said, and would encourage any questions you guys have for the Western Sydney representatives too. So let's get started. Could I please get each panelist to give a brief intro about themselves? And can we start with maybe the guys from UNSW?
Hey, my name's Alex, and I'm the Chief Engineer at Sunswift, UNSW's solar car racing team. I've been with the team for just over 18 months, and we're coming towards the completion of our latest vehicle.
Yeah, and my name's Ben. Didn't wear a shirt like Alex did, but I guess I missed the memo there. I'm the Chief Designer at Sunswift Racing, and I started in February last year. And yeah, like Alex said, finally getting to finish off our car. It was meant to be done in July, but we all know there was been some struggles with COVID all over the world. So yeah, keen to finally arrive at mid-December.
Great to meet you guys. Maybe let's move on to the guys from Michigan.
All right, thank you so much for having us today. I'm Brock. I've been on the Michigan team for coming up on 1.5 years now, and I'm the communications director.
Hello, like Brock said, thanks so much for having us here. My name is Terry, and I am the University of Michigan Solar Car Team's engineering director. I've been with the team a bit more than 1 year now, and very excited to be here.
Yep. My name is Evan. I'm also with the Michigan Solar Car Team. I've been here also for a little bit over 1 year. And yeah, thank you for having us. Excited to speak today.
Thank you, guys. How about Ruby from ANU?
Hello, my name is Ruby. I'm from the ANU Solar Car Team. ANU Solar Racing is our name. Since we're doing how long we've been on the team, I've been on the team for 4 years. I'm the project lead of the ANU Solar Racing team and have been so for the last 2 years or so, which is how long our team iterations run. And I'm also the president of the running association for the Aussie Solar Challenge, which our Aussie teams might know was planned for this year, but could not go ahead because of COVID. So we've all been impacted in so many ways. Thank you so much for having me on the panel.
Thank you so much, Ruby. And last but definitely not least, the guys from Italy.
Hi guys, I'm Morena. I'm in Onda Solare since 2017, and I'm really happy to be here. Good morning or good night, it depends on where you are now. I'm one of the pilots of the solar car team, and also I'm involved in the lamination part of the mechanical parts. Thank you.
Hello to everybody. I'm Giangiacomo. And from Onda Solare and the University of Bologna. I'm a university professor, and I help with the structural design of Emilia 4 that is in my background. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much. I've already introduced myself, but I'll also get Brad and Kartik, the representatives from WSU, to give a quick intro.
Awesome, thanks Divyam. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming to the Expo in this session particularly. My name's Brad, and I'm the team manager of the Western Sydney Solar team. I've been with the project for about 3 years now, My first year was as a mechanical member. And after that year, then, I moved into that team manager role. So yeah, Kartik, over to you.
Yeah, and hey guys, I'm Kartik. I'm one of the mechanical leads for the Western Sydney Solar team. It's coming on 2 years with me being part of the team now. And yeah, I also started as a mechanical member, and I've made my way to mechanical lead now.
Awesome. Well, I think we can get started with some of our questions. And like I said to the audience as well, please feel free to put your questions in the chat box and I'll direct them to the right panelist. I think if we can get started with you, Morena. I know that your team has had some absolutely unbelievable success recently, including at the Aluminium European Challenge. Could you please share some of your experiences with this and also some details about your upcoming car?
Sure. Well, basically, we attended, as you told us, the Aluminium European Solar Challenge in September. For who doesn't know, it is a 24 hours challenge. It is in the circuit of Zolder in Belgium. And you basically have to pass the scrutineering tests as in all the solar cars competition. So the mechanical part, the electrical part, the visibility and lights tests, also as in the US or the American Solar Challenge or in Australia for the World Solar Challenge. After passing these tests, you have the competition itself, so you have to drive in the circuit of Zolder, and yeah, there are the two categories as in all the competitions: the challenger category and the cruiser one. We competed there with our Emilia 4 LT long tail. So the one with we brought in Australia in 2019 during the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge, and we won the challenge. We did about 800 kilometers. They were 204 laps. We succeeded in doing the fastest lap. So basically, the score, the total score, comes from a sum of many other partial scores, and we got the best one. So we won the competition. It was really exciting.
Thank you so much. That's great to hear, and definitely congratulations to yourself and the whole team. That sounds pretty incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Maybe for our next question, if I can get someone from Sunswift to share a little bit about, there's been a lot of talk about your vertical integration methodology and, what it's meant for the team in the recent years, and to share a little bit about what Sunswift 7 is and what the team is planning to achieve with it.
Yeah, I might take that one, Alex. So Sunswift, starting in February, sort of changed their approach. Well, we're now part of the UNSW curriculum, so we're actually getting graded for our work, even though most of us don't really see it as a subject. As we all know, it's a lot bigger than the course. We do get a bit of a grade for it, and we do get some credit for it, which is quite nice. And it also puts a lot more sort of, it connects us to academics and professors and researchers at the uni a lot better than you might find in previous years of Sunswift. So it's definitely had its ups and downs, but we're sort of, ironing out some of the kinks and getting the hang of it. And we've made some really good progress, and it's allowed us to push forward and achieve some pretty awesome things. Obviously, like we said, the car's not quite finished yet, but got some really cool innovations on that car. Keen to test out some of the features, and we're also now overlapping in the design process for the next car. The next car is going to be very different to any solar car that actually exists in the world right now, where we actually want to make it a proper performance car, where there seems to be a massive misconception about solar being weak and solar power cars not being realistic enough. So we kind of want to flip that on its head, and sort of the vertical integration, as well as just drawing a lot more attention to Sunswift within uni, seems to be helping us there.
That's quite interesting to hear. So is the plan to sort of, take a step maybe back from looking at just competing in the World Solar Challenge and look at sort of doing more top speed? Is that sort of I'm getting at, like in terms of performance with your vehicle?
Yeah, so we'll definitely always still attend the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge. Massively important event for all of us. And I think we might have the luxury now where the car that we're finishing now is basically built around the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge, and there's no need to build a second car that's also built around the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge. So we can take 7, which is currently in production, race that at Bridgestone World Solar Challenge, and be very competitive. And then our next 8 can be something that's maybe more of a 2-seater sports car and, you know, a bit more fun to drive and sort of designed around the user experience rather than just, and really let sort of performance technology drive innovation rather than scoring criteria in the end. So should be exciting. We'll see how it turns out.
Absolutely, that does sound quite exciting. Look forward to seeing more about that. That's awesome. All right, for my next one, maybe I can direct this towards you, Ruby. Now I know ANU is a relatively young team in BWSC, and it's been so amazing to see another great Australian team in the competition. There've been a lot of viewers from our expo who are at high schools that are actually looking to get into the world of solar racing. Can you share your experience in building a team from the ground up, and any tips and tricks that you can pass on to other teams who are just starting out?
I guess there was a couple of questions in there, my experience and thoughts about bringing students into the team. What our team does, which I think a lot of solar car teams do, but our business team makes quite a big focus into, is actually developing an outreach program to different schools that are around the ACT, which is where we're based. We've found not only is this very rewarding for the team members that go, no matter what age the children are that you go and talk to about solar cars, they can't deny their interest and are very excited by the idea and the process that we go through making these vehicles. But we've actually found that doing these programs leads to introducing more students into the ANU specifically to join the solar car team. So we've now had a couple of team members that have joined the ANU because they've been associated with one of our outreach programs in previous years. And so although that's something that you sort of have to, it's sort of an ongoing process, you can't do that immediately if you just wanted to start your solar car team up. I certainly think that no matter what stage you're in as a team, it's really worthwhile doing things like that, because it builds this sense of loyalty and community throughout both your university and the area that your solar car team is sort of associated with, which we found really beneficial. In terms of being a new team, it's always tricky to sort of get your exposure and get people to know who you are and what you're up to, and let individuals know that they can join. We as a team, as I sort of mentioned before, do have a technical and a business team, which many teams don't, but I think a couple of teams do. But that's definitely helped us to have improved events, marketing exposure, put a lot of emphasis on those market days and associating ourselves with all sort of corners of the university, not necessarily even just the engineering section of our university, which I think has been really helpful for our team to get that little bit of extra momentum throughout the community and throughout all the students at the uni as well.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I guess the next question, if I could ask, the guys from Michigan, a little bit about, now obviously we've all, been facing some pretty serious challenges during the lockdown period with the race cancellation and whatnot. How's Michigan been coping, and what have you guys been up to in 2020 and 2021?
Yeah, so the lockdown really threw a wrench in our plans. We were initially planning to participate in the 2021 World Solar Challenge, but that obviously got canceled. After that, the team had a bit of a reflection period, and we ultimately decided that it was worth spending time sort of changing many of the cultural issues that have been present on the Michigan team for a number of years now. So in addition to work on our latest car, which has yet to be unveiled, we have been focusing on culture, and in addition to preparing to hopefully win the 2023 World Solar Challenge this year. We're also trying to validate some of the models and the tools that we use to design our car. In addition, another goal of this cycle is sort of to inspire in general. A few days ago, we just exhibited at a TEDx event in Detroit, and that was very cool. And we have a number of similar events that we're looking at participating in going forward.
That's so good. That's so great to hear. I had a look at that TEDx event, and that was pretty great to see a solar car team there. So yeah, awesome job, guys. Also just got Peter joining us. Hey Peter. Would you be able to just give us a brief intro about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So Peter Pudney from the World Solar Challenge faculty. So amongst other things, I don't know how to work time zones, so sorry I'm late. But yeah, I was a member of the Aurora Solar Racing team from 1993. So I'm an old fella. I've raced with Aurora for many years. We won the World Solar Challenge in 1999. And then from 2011, I think I've been on the faculty of the World Solar Challenge. And I'm the one that's responsible for coordinating the regulations. So I don't write them all by myself, but I'm the one that makes sure that they are in some form of consistency.
Awesome. Well, great. We're so excited to have you here at this session, Peter. And could I, follow up with that with a bit of a question as well? Would you be able to shed a bit of light on what the process is within the science faculty after a race and getting a new regulation set out? I feel like, a lot of the, teams around in this panel would appreciate a bit of insight in that matter.
Sure. Yeah. Look. So, I mean, the faculty is a bunch of people who have been involved in solar racing for many years. So there's, I think, 3 people on the faculty who were at the first event. So we all know solar racing quite well as having some expertise in various aspects of science and whatever. But what we normally do is we review all of your documentation that you send in for the event. We review all the questions that we get asked on the sort of the team's mailing list. We go to Darwin, we stand around at scrutineering and we ask you lots of questions. And then we follow the event down from Darwin to Adelaide and we look at all the things that happen. And then after the event, we sit down and we talk to the teams, of course. And then after the event, we sit down and look at what worked, what didn't work, what were the unintended consequences of the regulations we'd written, what was misunderstood, which teams were able to find loopholes and do stuff that we had to then close off. So you don't see it in the regulations, but just about every regulation in the regulations has got a team's name next to it. So we weren't able to do any of that this year. And so you might have already received a letter from Chris. We're following up with the teams that registered for 2021, and we are asking you the questions that we would normally ask you in person during the event. So which were the regulations that you think gave unintended consequences? Which were the ones that gave you the most grief? Not saying we're going to change any of those, but we want to know which were the ones that were unclear, and how would you like, which are the ones that you would like to see changed. So we'll be asking each of the teams that, and we certainly value the input from the teams.
Great to hear, Peter. Thank you so much. I could see a lot of the faces lighting up on the screens as you talked about some of the stuff there. So I'm guessing you'll have some responses to those emails, definitely. No, that's great to hear. I've got a question in the chat, which asks to the international teams. What was your first impression of Australia, and how was it different from your homeland and the races on your homelands? So, Michigan and Onda, whoever wants to take that one on.
All of us, none of us have actually been to Australia.
Yes, we're all fairly young on the team.
No, that makes sense. Well, I guess we'll have to wait until after 23 to ask you guys that one. How about Morena or Minak? Any insight on that one?
I really loved Australia, and actually then I stayed for 6 months because I proceeded to stay in there for my PhD. But when I was there for the challenge, it was amazing. It was amazing also because as it is actually a wild land, basically we crossed the desert. It was crazy to do a challenge there. It's crazy looking at your car, the car you built, and you are driving your car there in basically where there's nothing, only kangaroos maybe. It was literally amazing, an incredible experience, and I hope I can do this again. As Terry, I think, Terry told that they were planning to go again in Australia, to go in Australia in 2021, and I think that many of us thought about that, but then we have to postpone. So we hope to come again in Australia in 2023.
Yeah. Of course, I would have an impression coming from Europe, and in particularly from Italy. What the difference you find are the distances. Everything is far away. It's so different from our common experience. So if we travel one day, we make all Italy. Or we reach there 12 hours of driving, and when we think about older, it's for us so far away. It's a different perspective from the European one.
Thank you so much, and I think I can speak on behalf of all of the Australian teams that we're so glad that this race happens right in our backyard, and we could not have picked a better location, I think. I've got a bit of a sneaky question from someone in a direct message in Zoom, which asks, how close is your relationship with PVC Pat? Do you guys have any fun stories to share? Maybe open that up to anyone who feels interested to answer.
As you were bringing up the email from Chris, I actually just replied to one of the guys that we should definitely get rid of PVC Pat. So my personal opinion on him or her, I wouldn't say it's the best. But I think I might leave it there.
So I'm happy to put my hand up and say I designed PVC Pat. PVC Pat was my creation, but it arose because we saw a number of teams in previous events were really squeezing their drivers into the car in a way that was not good for the fatigue of the drivers. So, if you look at cars, you had drivers that were sort of sitting sideways, scrunched up into the cabin. And over the years, we've had many teams come up to us and say, the lead designer just not able to get into the car that they designed because they were too tall or too wide or whatever. So PVC Pat is designed on international 95th percentile male and female proportions. So it is a real person size. And we think the aim of the regulations is to make the competition fair for everybody. So if everybody has to carry the same size person, then we understand that it really wrecks your aerodynamics, but it means that you can't be beaten by a team, let's call them Stanford, for example, that has, all of their drivers are petite women, and they design a car that is aerodynamically just so much better because they're able to fill it with people that are not the same size as regular people. So that's where PVC Pat comes from.
Thanks so much, Peter. It's good to get both sides of the argument with PVC Pat. Thank you so much. I've got also Jonathan asking the group, to all teams, what has the experience been like trying to build a solar car and participate in challenges during COVID? And you know, how do you guys deal with the lockdowns and the virtual nature of a lot of this year and last year? Yeah, maybe if Alex or Ben from UNSW want to kick that one off, or anyone else as well.
Yeah, I can jump on there a bit. You might hear some dogs in the background, apologies. So we've been thrown off a number of times with our car throughout COVID. So we started the design at the beginning of 2020 when it all kicked off with COVID. And then within our area in Sydney, we were locked down 3 times, some of us, because we lived in a part of Sydney that was locked down when the rest of Sydney wasn't. So we've gotten very close to finishing the car a number of times and then been cut short. So we've now been back in the lab for about 3 weeks now. So for those not in Sydney, we just had a big 3 and a bit month lockdown and that we've just finished. So we're hoping to have our car done by the middle of December. But while it's disruptive to the build process, it did allow us to begin ideating on our next car. So all that time at home when we can't do anything else physically lets us just brainstorm freely without time restrictions, which has been really nice to get our ideas down and record all of our mistakes while they're still fresh.
Awesome, thank you so much. Yeah, no, that's good to hear that, you know, at least that lockdown period did see, give you guys some benefits.
Definitely.
Anyone else who might want to expand on that question any further? No.
Oh, you go first.
No, please go.
I say, yeah, here, Michigan, we went entirely virtual at the start of our fall 2020 academic year, all the way up until the summer of 2021. We entirely worked in the car remotely with no in-person work in the labs. And that allowed us, we spent a lot of time, that's where we started getting back to the ideas of not only designing what was going to be our 2021 car, but we started thinking about how we wanted to validate our designs, as now we weren't able to actually be in the lab and building them. Now we're able to spend more time working with our simulations and our computers and our models. So we had to get back to make sure those are actually accurate. So that's been a huge motivation for our work continuing now that we can actually get in person and gather the data that would allow us to validate these models we've used for a number of years now that might have potentially not giving us the right data we think they might be.
Thank you for that. Morena, did you have anything you wanted to share with that one?
Basically, Onda Solare, as many of the other teams, proceeded with the design part of the new car because we were not able to go in the factory, because in Italy we had long periods of strict lockdown. So it was impossible for us to go to the factories for months and months and months. And so we proceeded with the design of the new car, basically.
Awesome. And I might ask like a bit of a follow-up question just from a bit of personal experience at Western. I think one of the biggest things that we struggled with during the lockdown was recruitment and training. You know, it was hard to really get any new members into the team because a lot of what, you know, sells solar cars is the physical side of it. So I wanted to, you know, maybe ask the panel here, you know, did anyone find any, you know, good creative solutions that actually allowed for good recruitment during lockdown?
Sunswift did a bit of recruitment during lockdown. So we got a number of new members on board, and it was difficult because it's hard to show them what we've been working on and like really get them excited on the project. So we just had to wait really until we could get everyone back in person. So now that's happened, we've been able to bring some of the new recruits into the workshop and show them the car in progress. And, you know, that's like really brought their excitement levels up. Like the first few months were just in joining some meetings here and there and listening into what we're doing, and then they see the car in person, they oh wow, I really get it now. Like I see what we're doing here. So yeah, we recruited some people, didn't find it too bad.
I think we changed our advertising strategy a little bit from like during lockdown. We said, well, Sunswift's not only an amazing, or solar racing in general is not only an amazing opportunity where you actually get to build a car, but you also learn a lot along the way through, and you make great industry contacts. So we sort of shifted our focus on saying, hey, if you want to learn a lot, and if you want to become the best engineer you possibly can, and this might be a project for you. So we've spent the last couple of months as well. I myself have been running a few CFD workshops. We've done like FEA workshops, teaching people simple analysis skills as well. And obviously in the process, not only are we educating people, but we're also bringing in the engineers into our teams. So yeah, I think the project is so much more than just building a car. And if you advertise that properly, then should be finding a lot of people.
I think to jump in there from my perspective too, what seems clear, like while we are in COVID and while we all were in lockdown, from my team's perspective when we were recruiting, is that what a lot of people felt like they lacked when they were in isolation by themselves was a sense of community. And Solar Car, I think we all know, can really provide a really genuine, really supportive, friendly community around you, which is just like ends up being, even if you can't do any work on the car, very, very useful for your own mental well-being while you're on while you're stuck by yourself. So I think for a lot of our new recruits, it kind of we didn't have very much trouble recruiting, and I think maybe one of the reasons could have been that sense of community that we kind of tend to sell as well.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Yeah, there was some really good insight in there. I've got a question from Jonathan here, who asked, what developments are you guys most excited to see from other teams in 2023? And I think as part of that as well, maybe if anyone wants to integrate about, I don't know, was there anything surprising to see at the Moroccan Challenge? I know that was a good little exciting reveal of a lot of European cars. Was there anything that got you guys by surprise? And also, yes, of course, what are you excited to see from other teams in 23? Anyone have any answers for that one?
I might kick that one off. Unfortunately, we didn't get to Morocco, but in terms of what we're excited to see for 2023, I think it's the regulations for that race. Presumably, will have quite significant changes. So the ground clearance obviously is one of them. The other thing is the fact that we can now use 3 wheels. It's going to be really exciting to see what people come up with in that space. And just talking like aero, I think the solution to the number plate placement at the rear of the vehicle and solutions around that, I think will be very fascinating. And they're pretty much the 3 biggest things that I'm excited to see coming into 2023.
Awesome. I'll be honest, I was quite excited, impressed seeing some of the cars at Morocco as well, because I've struggled to understand how we were going to be able to get a monohull car that was meeting all the stability requirements in a 3-wheeler configuration. But a lot of teams seem to have done that and done it well and created cars that have finished the Moroccan Challenge. So I think that opens up a lot of new doors for, I guess, teams who might have been not too sure of that idea going into 2021's race, and hopefully explore it a bit further in 23. No, that's awesome. Peter, if I could ask you a bit of a question about the 2021 regulation set, which seems to have had a push towards getting, solar cars closer to following regulations of normal road vehicles, with the ground clearance and the number plate and so on. Could you share a little bit about, what triggered that change and what can people expect to see from cruisers and challenges of the future?
Yeah, so when we look back over the history of the event, the regulations that we used to be fairly arbitrary. So let's look at lighting as a good example. we used to have regulations that said you've got to have indicators and brake lights, and teams would eventually work their lights down to tiny little fiber optic things sticking out the back of a sharpened trailing edge and that sort of thing. And we needed to get some sort of standard that every team was meeting the requirements of an on-road event. So the World Solar Challenge is an on-road event. It's on public roads. We do have to meet requirements that are imposed on us by the road authorities. And in order to keep the road authorities happy, but also make it a kind of a level playing field for all the teams, when it comes to making up standards for vehicles, so lighting standards for solar cars, for example, we can either make something up or we can just say, well, what are the standards that apply to motor vehicles? And so what we've been doing for the last, since 2011, I guess, is if there's a requirement and we have to make up a standard for it, we go to the UNECE regulations. And so all of the regulations are based on UNECE regulations where we have to impose it. Now, we try not to impose requirements unless it's a requirement of, this is a requirement of the road authority to be on the road. We try and keep the design of cars as flexible as we possibly can. But number plates were just an issue for us at scrutineering. We had teams that would fail the number plate many times and then come back and try again and go away. And it wasn't just Western Sydney. In the end, it was just easy for us to say, look, there is a requirement that we have to have a number plate. That was also a requirement for Atacama as well, to have a number plate. And we just said, all right, we're just going to look up what the requirement is, and we're just going to go with that. And it's introduced an aerodynamic hit, but it's the same hit for everybody.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Awesome. No, thank you so much for sharing that one. Maybe if I could ask one towards UNSW. And now Sunswift seems to have, a much wider focus on innovation and advancing technologies and various different, parts of the car. And I saw you guys on your social media, you're doing some pretty cool work with, stuff like even door hinges, which, are not, a massive focus for a lot of the teams. Could you share a little bit about what, innovations in Sunswift 7 you're most excited to share with everyone?
Yeah, can do. Yeah, as you mentioned, we are trying to push the innovation quite a lot at the moment. What we found was that, you go to an Audi showroom and you're very excited to sit in their cars and you want to interact with the controls and you want to, sit in the seat because it all looks very inviting. And something that Ben noticed was that a lot of people looked at our cars and thought they were impressive, but they very rarely asked to sit in them or to have a go because, they're designed for racing and not for comfort. So we wanted to broaden the appeal by expanding the areas that we're innovating across. So one of those that you brought up is the door hinges. So anyone who's into cars and has seen Koenigsegg before, they use dihedral synchrohelix door hinges, which is this crazy mechanism with gears and stuff that opens the doors in this really cool manner. And Ben had the idea of putting them on the car, and they were a very poor engineering decision because they took a lot of machining time and a lot of adjusting and reworking. But now every single person that walks up to our car and they open the door and they go, what the heck, that's crazy. And they're really excited about the car before they even stepped in. So we're doing some stuff like that is just cool because you got to have stuff that's just cool. And then we're also trying to do things that are novel in themselves. So we have 3D printed suspension uprights on Sunswift 7. We're making some prototype composite wheels using automated fiber placement, which are in the works at the moment, and they're very exciting. So yeah, we're just trying to push innovation anywhere we can, anywhere we think, could do something a bit different there. Why not just try it while we're at university and we have the chance?
That's fantastic to hear. That's such a good approach and mindset, I think, to it. Thank you so much.
Maybe just to add to that, how most people don't really want to drive solar-powered cars. That's part of the reason why we're taking a shift towards building cars that actually excite people from a driving standpoint, not just necessarily from like, oh, this is built by a bunch of students that are really impressive. You know, what if we all built cars that people go up to and go, hey, when can I get a drive? You know, can I race it around a track? Like, can I drive this to the office? And not just look at it as being a cool bit of technology. So yeah, sort of expanding in all possible directions there.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for sharing. I seem to have missed a question from above, but that asks, share some of your favorite experiences from BWSCs to everyone. Anyone got any cool stories and stuff from previous races that they could share?
Yeah, I think you know, definitely for me, 2019. Well, I mean, it's the only BWSC that I've been to so far, but you know, in 2019, when we sort of rocked up with the car to Hidden Valley Raceway, you know, seeing all the other teams with their cars at the track for the first time, it just blew my mind. And, you know, that's when it all became real for me. You know, we operate in our own little bubble of people, you know, whether that be 20, 30 people, depending on the cycle. And we sort of forget that there's other life out there. So, you know, when we get to the track and we see that lineup of cars and an awesome bunch of people, yeah, it makes it real, and it's nice to know that there's like-minded people out there. So that was probably, you know, a highlight moment for myself.
Brad, I've got to agree with you with that one. I feel like it's so funny when we're all working as a solar car team together. We like tend to only recognize that we actually have such a community at the very end of so many of our iterations. Like, it makes so little sense. And I think what I've realized this year, having been like already been on a BWSC and now 2 years longer, I think that I've seen that community more often in COVID, funnily enough. And now that I've recognized how tight knit it actually is, maybe I'm seeing it more. But I think like moving forward, solar car community should like make more emphasis on getting that community together earlier. And I sort of think just more closely connected would make a huge difference for all the teams internationally.
Funny story, if you want, from the last race. At the middle of the night, it was more or less 1 o'clock. We had an informatic glitch in the car, and the car stopped. So we managed to go back to the pit lane, and then after 1 hour of doing switch on, switch off, and so on, we decided to make some laps in the bug mode. And so there was an informatic sitting in the back with his computer, but he was not trained as a passenger. That is not difficult, but you have to know something. And at some point, he lost his PC on the door opened, and he lost his PC. And it was really funny, because there was the assistants of the race went there and took the PC on the track and brought it back, and it was still on and working. So it was a book for the rest of the weekend, of course.
Yeah, but I was the driver at that moment, and my team told that, because when the PC went off the car, I just heard my friend sat on the rear seat. Oh my God, my PC! Well, so I communicate with my team with the walkie-talkie. Hey guys, we lost our PC. And everybody in the pit in the pit lane were like what? So they called the safety car for our PC, and it was like a moment of what is going on, guys? What?
That's a really funny story. I think that I doubt has ever happened in solar car racing before, or many other types of racing, to see a laptop out on the track. Thank you for sharing that one. So I have one question for yourself, Ruby, and maybe Peter, if you wanted to talk a little bit about this as well. But I know, of course, you're one of the main people organizing and managing the newly established Aussie Solar Challenge. Could you share a little bit about what that was like, what the event is for some of our international participants as well, and what might be the future plans for it, considering unfortunately getting cancelled by the second lockdown?
Yeah, well, the motivation behind the Aussie Solar Challenge was essentially, once the BWSC got cancelled, from an Australian perspective, I'm sure all the Aussie teams can agree with me that it kind of seemed like, well, we get that the international teams can't come over here, like all the borders are closed, that's really tricky. But surely it doesn't mean we can't have any solar challenges here in Australia, because for a long period of time in Australia, we had little to no COVID cases for like a large majority of the time over the last 2 years. I mean, with a couple of lockdowns here and there. And certainly within the last 6 months, we've seen very different experience. But in the lead up to, after the BWSC got cancelled, we essentially decided it would be best to get all the teams together on track racing, just get your solar cars on the track, and maybe we can develop a event which will, as I was sort of suggesting before, will bring together that community in a way that the BWSC does, even if it's with less glory or excitement, or even if it's not on road as the BWSC is, because we have so little time to organize it. And it was looking really good. It's actually potentially going to be a very good event in regional New South Wales, around the Wakefield Raceway track in Goulburn, and then on the road in the ACT, like around Parliament House and the National Museum, and some really key like Australian areas in the national capital. But of course, because of COVID hitting Australia hard in the wave that was always coming, I suppose, it had to be cancelled. It doesn't mean that it can't be going ahead. Currently, we're in talks as to when it could go ahead, like in the future, and probably going to get in contact with all the Aussie teams as to when they would like it to go ahead, if possible. But of course, that offer also goes out to international teams if they happen to be in Australia with their solar cars at a time that it tends to go ahead. Obviously, we wouldn't want to be at the same time as the BWSC, but yeah, we'll just see how it goes. It could be really nice to have an event in the off years of the BWSC that would allow teams to train their team members as to what it's like to race a car or test their car before they, like with their other teams, to get it on track for the first time. Yeah, there's a lot of benefits to sort of having multiple races a year, I think, or in an iteration.
Absolutely. And thank you for answering that one. And I feel a lot of resonance with Michigan as well when I talk about not having been on a race yet, because I've been on this team for 3 years, and let alone racing in a BWSC, I've barely even had a chance to see and operate a solar car on a track for testing or whatever. So I think we'd all be pretty excited to have something like the Aussie Solar Challenge go ahead in the future to get some car running done.
Yeah, there's a lot of like experience lost in terms of even just camping. Like, we're going to take our entire team camping, because if we don't, then none of our team that continues on to our next iteration will ever have used our camping gear, or like, know how the generator works. Even like really simple logistical experience things that you can hand over through documentation, but like it's so much easier to just like give it a try. Yeah, some of that stuff is really important. So it's really put a bit of a spanner in the works in terms of our handover, because a lot of it is experience based, and without having gone to the Solar Challenge, we can't have gained that for our team this iteration without trying to do it ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. Maybe a next question for Morena or Minak. I know you guys mentioned Amelia 5. Would you guys want to share a bit more about you know, what we can expect from the car, and you know, how's the team been going with it?
Well, Amelia the 5 will be a cruiser too, because it will be our second cruiser car. Basically, we are defining the design because we go on with the design during the COVID period, I told you. And we just started since 1 month, 1.5 months to practically build some little parts. We are trying to modify to modify the suspension part. I cannot say more, but we're trying to go on with the technology to innovate really much the suspension system. And if we manage to do that, I think you will appreciate that, because we are several new ideas in our minds. And Giangiacomo can support my thesis, because he's really involved in this part. We are work really hard on this, and also we're always involved in doing the car lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter always. But we are also we are struggling with, because we want a lighter car, but a beautiful one, because we all know that the practicality test is becoming more and more important. So we have to balance these two characteristics, but we are going on, and we hope to start building the car at the beginning of 2022. I hope.
Yeah,
Well,
I would add something. We are working in two directions. One is designing a new Amelia 5 according to the most recent regulations. And as Morena told, we are trying to make some innovation. The suspension system is being patented in these months. So we have first to protect it, and then we will manufacture completely. And the second direction
unfortunately
was far too long, and so we are trying to register for the normal roads Amelia 4 meanwhile. So it will be go on running like a laboratory, a running laboratory for our experiments. But with a license, it would be easier, because we will not need circuits anymore. So just go in the lab, take the car, and go.
awesome. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, we'd love to be able to, you know, one day get some road registration for one of our cars and do some real on-road testing ahead of the BWSE. It'll be interesting to see how that's going to be possible in Australia. But no, thanks for sharing. Now, with only a few minutes till the end, maybe I just want to open it up to everyone for any closing thoughts. Anything people should look out for from your team. You know, any final words you guys want to say?
So yeah, I know, especially from our team, we're still working on our current car, but pretty soon we're going to be revealing the name on all of our social media. Pretty soon after that, we should be revealing the design sometime this spring. Really excited. We've got some really big plans for this summer that we're going to announce pretty soon, and we'd love to hear what everyone else is up to.
Awesome. No, thank you for that. We'll be keeping a keen eye for on your social media and also on Ondas to look out for whatever the suspension thing is, because it's got me intrigued. And there's not much release there, so we'll keep an eye out for whatever that is. Yeah, if no one else has any closing thoughts, I'd like to thank everyone so much for joining us. I think someone from my team just decided to team Urine with PVC Pat.
Special appearance from PVC Pat we've got here.
Yeah, he's wearing a nice white vig. I doubt he'll have any final words, but like I was saying, thank you so much for joining. It was so great to see other teams after so long. For the Australian teams, I really hope we can race against each other at a OzSC next year. But otherwise, I'm really looking forward to seeing what each and every team get up to next year, and can't wait to race them in 2023. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having us. It was great.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
for
for
hosting
putting
us.
this on.
Thanks.